Assalamu alaikum and hi everyone. Welcome to this presentation. First of all, I would like to thank the Third International Conference on Management, Education, Social Sciences and Innovation 2022 for organizing this virtual conference. The topic of this research paper is food waste and household logistics, a critical analysis between Malaysia and Bangladesh. This research paper is a cross-country analysis. The first author, and is presented by Salsabil Hossain. Co-author is Mohammad Saidul Haq. Let us first start this presentation with a presentation outline. First is the introduction, which focuses on background, problem statement, objectives, and contributions of this research paper, followed by literature review, which is the theory, variables, conceptual framework, and hypothesis. Then the methodology, contributing the demographics and analysis applied in this research, the findings, conclusion, limitations, and future recommendations. I would first like to ask a question before starting this presentation. Did you waste food today? Do you know the amount of food we waste every day? Let us know more about the impact of the food we waste. According to Northern Etiol 2020, 1.3 billion of food is wasted in the world annually, which is either lost via consumption or production or wasted. Wasted in a sense of edible food, which is consumable, but people are still wasting it. So what is the economical cost associated in this 1.3 billion food wastage? It is considered that 1 trillion amount of food are wasted is the economical cost, among which 900 billion are the social cost. And if 25% of this 900 billion are reduced, then 821 million undernourished and underprivileged people can be fed. So what about the environmental cost? 700 billion is associated with it. And the decomposition of this food contributes to 95% of methane gas in the air. And we know the contribution of methane in global warming. But let us now focus more into a particular region, new industrialized Asia. What do we mean by new industrialized Asia? These are the countries which are developing very fast via industrialization. In Southeastern Asian region, we consider Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia part of this new industrialized Asia. And in Southern Asia region, we consider India and Bangladesh. But we can see a pattern among these 5 countries. Between Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, Malaysia is the one which have a middle GDP but contributes 91 kg per capita per year of household food waste estimates. And among India and Bangladesh, Bangladesh is considered to have 65 kg per capita per year household food waste estimates. But what are the factors which are contributing in this? Why Malaysia and Bangladesh are having a high household food waste estimate? Let us go more in depth of it. Malaysia is considered a land of surplus food. According to Jeremy Etiol 2016, the authors estimated that Malaysians are wasting 15 times more food than they used to 4 years ago. And according to Mako 2021, 15,000 tons of food are wasted in Malaysia daily, and among which 3,000 tons are edible. It is estimated that this food can actually feed 2.2 million people in Malaysia daily. So what is the impact of this? The impact is Malaysia ranks 59th on global hunger index. It is impacting the underprivileged people who cannot afford nutritious food, and as a result, it's affecting the children. 23% of Malaysian children are considered short, 22% are considered underweight, and 32 are thinner than average. And what about Bangladesh? We can see there is a huge gap of data of food waste in this country. But according to Chaudhary and Islam 2016, the author states 45,000 tons of food are wasted per day in this country. So what is the impact? The impact is Bangladesh is considered the 75th global inheritance. And again, it's impacting the children most. Now let us consider what are the problems stated in this research. There is limited literature focusing on consumer behavior in terms of social cognitive theory in both Malaysia and Bangladesh. No research has been conducted on food waste relating to digitalization and logistics as two solutions in the modern technology world among household consumer perspective in Malaysia and Bangladesh. And as we have seen in the previous slide, recent food waste statistics are unavailable in Bangladesh. And research papers proposing digitalization reverse logistics as a prevention measure of food waste is scarce in both countries. So the current study is aimed at understanding the complex consumer behavior that contributes to food waste, and then to identify the acceptance of reverse logistics by household consumers in order to reduce food waste in both Bangladesh and Malaysia. Therefore, there are three research objectives of this research paper. The first research objective is to investigate the moderating effect of innovation and reverse logistics on the relationship between the household consumer behavior attributes towards the amount of food waste reduction. The second research objective is to compare the relationship between the amount of food waste reduction and sustainable environment between Bangladesh and Malaysia. Finally, the third research objective is to propose a solution model to prevent food waste among household sectors in both Bangladesh and Malaysia. So, what are the research questions? The first research question is that what is the moderating effect of innovation and reverse logistics on the relationship between the household consumer behavior attributes towards the amount of food waste reduction? And the second research question is what is the relationship between the amount of food waste reduction and the sustainable environment between Bangladesh and Malaysia? Therefore, in this research, there are three research contributions: theoretical, managerial, and social. First, the theoretical. No literature has focused on social cognitive theory, where participants learn new elements via information and behavior by observing others, which later action provides as a guide to act socially and culturally. This research paper will fill up that literature gap. The major contribution of this research paper is that the house is to identify the household consumer's perspective towards technological involvement to participate in reverse logistics. Therefore, to propose new prevention method where we can reduce food waste. The most important is social contribution. This research paper will propose a prevention method for both Bangladesh and Malaysia with the help of technology and reverse logistics, which will help high-income people in both countries to share consumable or edible food with underprivileged people via reverse logistics in Malaysia and Bangladesh again. But one may ask, what is social cognitive theory? Social cognitive theory (SCT) is proposed by Bandura in 1989. Associating social cognitive theory with culture will be appropriate as static and stable as the attributes, characteristics, and behavior of a human being are passed down in a generation with limited modification between individual and environment. This means an individual always learns from the neighboring person or the previous generation. Because of the cultural exchanges, people learn from one another rather than one another. Now, the variables that have been used in this research paper. Sustainable environment is actually the theory of understanding to leave this world in a better condition that we have received for our future generation instead of harming it. Food waste is actually to wasting food which are edible or eligible for consumption. Knowledge is a independent variable, which means an individual is actually aware of the food waste consequences that will be happening in the world. Awareness is understanding and recognizing the food waste phenomenon that will have impact on the consumers. Attitude: consumers who are pro-environmental and are aware that food waste can have a huge consequences. Culture: socially, the consumer will act or have a kind of social norms which actually contributes in a person's waste behavior. Habits: it depends on individually the factors which actually helps in reducing food waste. Innovation is a method or a platform digitally which actually helps being a medium for people to reduce food waste. And reverse logistics is a method, is a logistics way, is a new green and logistics way where consumers can actually share edible food to other person who is not able to buy the food or consume the food due to its price or other factors without wasting the food. This is the conceptual framework of the research paper and the hypothesis, where knowledge, awareness, attitude, culture, and habits are five attributes of consumer behavior, which are affected by preventive measures, which here in this research paper is considered the innovation and reverse logistics, will have an impact on amount of food waste reduction, which will significantly or insignificantly affect the sustainable environment. Therefore, hypothesis 1: knowledge moderated by innovation and reverse logistics influences the amount of food waste reduction. H2: awareness moderated by innovation and reverse logistics influences the amount of food waste reduction. H3: attitude moderated by innovation and reverse logistics influences the amount of food waste reduction. H4: culture moderated by innovation and reverse logistics influences the amount of food waste reduction. H5: habits moderated by innovation and reverse logistics influences the amount of food waste reduction. And finally, H6: consumer behavior moderated by preventive measures influences the amount of food waste reduction and sustainable environment. Therefore, now the methodology of this research paper. This research paper is a quantitative research paper. The sampling that has been used in this research paper is cluster sampling technique. Cluster A is Bangladesh and cluster B is Malaysia. Sampling location. There are two locations in each country: Dhaka, the capital city, and the port city Chittagong of Bangladesh; Kuala Lumpur, the capital city and Selangor of Malaysia. Target sample: the citizens who are residing in Malaysia and Bangladesh. The citizens who are above 17 and are knowledgeable, who are considered adult. So, deciding the sample size, the minimum sample size for one cluster is 5. However, for more accurate results, we have used G power statistics, that is actually 74 minimum sample size required. Target sample is 100 each cluster. So therefore, it's assuming 200. But the final responses received are 245, but fulfilling all the above requirements. Google Form has been constructed to receive responses from the target respondents. A closed questionnaire and 5-point Likert scale has been used to form the questionnaire form. In questionnaire construct, there were like 10 sections considering all independent and dependent variables. After receiving 50 responses, where 36 were Bangladeshi and 14 Malaysian, a Kronberg reliability test has been conducted to understand the interrelatedness of the constructs. And among them, the highest Kronberg alpha value was 0.867. After determining the Kronberg alpha and understanding the interrelatedness of the constructs, the remaining responses has been recorded. Afterwards, multiple regression analysis has been conducted to understand the significance and non-significance of the variables, and following this, cross-tabulation has also been conducted. Based on our previous discussion, the research objective 01 is to investigate the moderating effect of innovation and reverse logistics on the relationship between the household consumer behavior attributes towards the amount of food waste reduction. To determine and define these research objectives, we have 5 hypotheses. Each hypothesis is used and constructed to find the influence of all consumer behavior attributes, which is namely knowledge, awareness, attitude, culture, and habits of both Bangladesh and Malaysia. Based on the multiple regression analysis, we found that in Bangladesh, awareness, attitude, and culture are the 3 consumer behavior attributes which are statistically significant. And among the preventive measures, reverse logistics was statistically significant, and also innovation by reverse logistics. Where in Malaysia, only awareness and attitude among the consumer behaviors were statistically significant, and innovation was only the one preventive measures which are accepted among Malaysians. Therefore, let's go more in depth of the multiple regression analysis conducted in this research. Based on the analysis, awareness, attitude, and culture are statistically significant. Therefore, H2, H3, and H4 are accepted hypotheses, considering H1 and H4 are rejected in terms of Bangladesh. The third research objective of this research paper is to propose a solution model to prevent food waste among household sectors and among Bangladesh, and also considering the multiple regression analysis we just talked. This is the solution. If we have awareness, attitude, and culture, which are statistically significant consumer behavior attributes, and we use reverse logistics to support this consumer behavior, this will actually positively affect the amount of food waste reduction in Bangladesh. And considering Malaysia, only 2 consumer behavior attributes has been positive, which are awareness and attitude. Therefore, H2 and H3 are accepted, where H1, H4, and H5 are rejected hypotheses. To propose a solution model to prevent food waste among household sectors, which are the third research objectives, now, according to Malaysia, this is the preventive measure for Malaysia. Awareness and attitude, the 2 positive consumer behaviors, will help to reduce the amount of food waste reduction when innovation, which in form of web page platform, has been applied. After multiple regression analysis, we have also conducted cross-tabulation. Cross-tabulation has been used to only measure between attitude and awareness, the two consumer behavior attributes which are statistically significant in both Bangladesh and Malaysia. To better understand both the influence of both these attributes, this cross-tabulation is very helpful. Here we can see that 27 more Malaysians agree with food waste can be prevented and has environmental hazards compared to Bangladeshis, and 28 more Bangladeshis strongly agree that food waste can be prevented and has environmental hazards. And if we consider the awareness among the two countries, we can see 49 more Malaysians both agree with how food waste they make and aware that its indirect impact on undernourished people. So what is the conclusion we can make from this cross-tabulation? This cross-tabulation gives a clear view that more Bangladeshi have a strong attitude in food waste prevention and more Malaysians are aware of the impacts. Marketers can actually use this insight and prepare a better campaign for both these countries. Another contribution of this research paper is to understand the opinion of reverse logistics in both Bangladesh and Malaysia. As you can see, in Bangladesh, 37.39%, which is more than the others, have actually accepted that sharing food can actually reduce food waste. Where in Malaysia, more than 50% of people have said that collection and separation of food can actually help to reduce food waste. So we can actually see here that both countries has different input and interpretation of reverse logistics. One is more approaching and willing to share food among themselves, where the other they're less appreciated of that approach, but they're willing that government take a better step to collect food from them. Finally, the second research objective of this research paper, which is to compare the relationship between the amount of food waste reduction and sustainable environment between Bangladesh and Malaysia. Based on this research objective, we have hypothesis 6, which is the amount of food waste reduction influences the sustainable environment. So let us know more about this finding. Therefore, to understand the research objective 2 and hypothesis 6, this multiple regression table will be very helpful. As you can see, the result between Bangladesh and Malaysia is very contradictory. Where food waste behavior is positively statistically significant in Bangladesh with preventive measures, Malaysia is different. We can see the food waste behavior in Bangladesh can actually positively impact the sustainable environment, but among Malaysians, the consumer behavior will actually contribute positively in sustainable environment. Therefore, to finally propose a solution model to prevent food waste among household sectors in both Bangladesh and Malaysia is this preventive model. In Bangladesh, awareness, attitude, and culture are three consumer behavior which will positively impact in amount of food waste reduction with help of reverse logistics. However, this amount of food waste reduction is non-statistically significant in sustainable environment. That means other preventive measures are also required to include or propose in future research paper. In Malaysia, awareness and attitude are two consumer behavior which positively impact in amount of food waste reduction in presence of innovation and will have a positive sustainable environment. Therefore, the conclusion of this research paper is that Bangladesh is a culturally involved nation, which we have seen their support for reverse logistics, where people are actually willing to share food, the edible food, with needy by reverse logistics. This research paper supports and says and to the organizations in Bangladesh that they can apply the preventive method of food waste by introducing apps or social media in order to reduce food waste reduction. And this will also be very helpful for a low cost method. For Malaysia, consumer behavior, which is most determined variable we have seen in hypothesis 6, will be very helpful to reduce food waste. But without involvement of reverse logistics, but involvement of innovation, which is in fact in presence of web platform, website, or social media. However, this research paper is not without any limitations. This present research paper has not classified a specific demographic characteristics to investigate in the research, and therefore is a suggestion for future research paper. In the present study, one of the findings is the insignificance of innovation, which needs further research to understand the contradictory impact with broader sample size and location. Moreover, future research can focus on restaurant owners' perspective of acknowledgement of reverse logistics and implication of innovation to reduce food waste for sustainable environment in new industrialist countries, for example, Bangladesh and Malaysia. Finally, this is the end of this research presentation. Thank you for your time and listening to our presentation. But I have a request before ending this presentation. Please think again before wasting food. Thank you.